BLS just erased 911,000 jobs. Monthly growth cut to around 70K. Was the labor market weaker all along? Did Trump have a point shaking up the BLS? Stay tuned to find out what this means for the next Fed move.
Okay, well, let's move on then to the massive jobs revision that reveals Labor softer than expected labour market. So anyway, so there was a 911,000 jobs revision for the year ending March 2025. And this says something about the accuracy of the BLS data. What do you think that's showing?
So the Bureau of Labor Statistics, their data has been horrendous. You know, Phil, a number of years ago, I was following, these weekly or monthly jobs reports, and, the market would trade off of it. And what we started to notice was you would get, let's say the market was looking for 120,000 jobs and you get 140,000 jobs, and people say, okay, wow, that's fantastic. They beat by 20,000 jobs. Everything's great. And then a month later, when no one was looking, there'd be a revision down by 40,000 jobs, but no one was paying attention at the time. And eventually I realized that the amount of the beat was almost always exceeded by the amount of the revision, and the revisions were almost always in the opposite direction. So, what I realized is the BLS, that's the Bureau of Labor Statistics, their data is horrible. Their accuracy is horrible. And here's what we got. A few years ago, we had a revision of over 700,000 jobs. And then a year later, we had a revision of over 700,000 jobs. Sorry, I think they were both over 800,000 jobs. Then earlier this year, we got a revision of 250,000 jobs. That was the one that caused President Trump to fire the head of the agency, McIntyre. And then we just got a revision of 911,000 jobs. This is millions and millions of jobs that have been wiped off the books after they were reported. Now, people are saying, well, it's not really their fault. More companies are not reporting. They're not getting them the data. Okay, fine. I believe you, but it's the job of the agency to get that data. And the thing that people were missing is the BLS was doing nothing to improve that data. We just kept getting larger and larger and larger revisions, always down. And so, the question is, okay, maybe it wasn't McIntyre's fault that they had bad data, but she wasn't doing anything to fix it. And these are 3 revisions of 750,000 jobs or more in just 2 years, covering 3 years. I mean, this is insane. President Trump was right to fire her, not because it was her fault that they got bad data, but because nobody was doing anything to fix it. She was in that position for years. So the BLS, they need to do something to address the situation.
And do you think they're going to be able to improve that? Do you think the leadership changes have led to any improvements?
Well, so it's too early to tell, right?
These bureaucracies, they're hard, they're difficult to change, aren't they? It's like punching jelly sometimes.
They are, and in fairness, it is difficult. The United States is an enormous country, both geographically and by population. It has a very varied economy. It's not like everybody works for the government and you can just go to payroll and say, how many checks did you cut this week? We also have the real engine of growth in the U.S. economy is small business formation. Those, by definition, don't report a lot of data to the BLS. Okay, I got it. It's hard. But, they need to do something. This isn't the kind of thing that they're going to be able to fix in a few weeks. The new leadership has only been there for a very short time. They're going to need time to make whatever changes they need to make.
It's interesting because these kind of figures are seen by prognosticators to indicate whether a recession is brewing or not. It's really difficult to make those kind of judgment calls if the data is not giving you the full picture.
Yeah, that is 100% true. I think
because we're all waiting for a recession. We're all waiting. These tariffs, they're going to bring a recession on any day.
Yeah, by the way, Phil, another place that the jobs data is inaccurate. Well, sorry, pardon me, not inaccurate. But people keep talking about a weak jobs market. But a lot of the jobs that have been taken out have been government jobs, right? In the 15 minutes before Elon Musk left Doge and before Congress basically said Doge couldn't do anything, they cut tens of thousands of government jobs. So that's not really a loss of production. And that's actually influenced the data as well. So, we've got that and we know how many of those jobs have gone. We know how many people have signed up for unemployment insurance or, are collecting benefits. We have a pretty good sense of how many jobs are in the economy, like how many jobs are posted and how many people are looking for jobs. One thing that's also really interesting, and we're going to talk about this in the big macro piece that we're releasing later this week, is that while the jobs growth has been weak, that's also been offset by repatriations. Right? So we had a lot of people in the country who were working illegally. And as they've gone back to their home countries, there's been this offsetting effect. So we've had fewer jobs available, but fewer people looking for those jobs. And it's kept the labor market in balance. And in fact, wage growth has actually been really healthy. So if you have a job, chances are you're staying in that job, you're getting paid more. Again, these people are facing less competition from people who are being repatriated to their home countries. So, the whole thing is really complicated right now. But the point of all this is people said that tariffs would be a disaster. They haven't been. They said that repatriations would be a disaster. They haven't been. Right. And, is the labor market as strong as it was a few years ago? It's really hard to tell. Like, it doesn't look great right now. But a year ago, we were getting reports that were overstated by 911,000 jobs. So what do you do with that data? In my case, not pay a whole lot of attention to it and just say it's not such a horrible thing for President Trump to replace the head of an agency that keeps having these almost million job revisions.
And that's the good news. It's buried in the data, isn't it? Is the shift from people being on public assistance to becoming active labour market participants. Is repatriation the only reason driving this kind of change?
No, I think the key thing is wages, that people are seeing opportunities, there's been wage growth, and they're saying, you know what, I'm going to go back to work. And that, I think, is a win all the way around. It's great for society when we're paying less in benefits to people and people are being productive and working. That's great. It's also good for those people. In general, being on public assistance doesn't lead to good outcomes. People are happier when they're working and productive and, feel like they're accomplishing something. So I think it's a win all the way around.